Good Monday morning. Glad to have you here for another lesson. This week, some insight from a conclusion to a sermon right after this. Well, once again, we are here for a lesson from our series in Plugged In, and we're just kind of been bouncing around. We have in the past done certain Bible series or maybe a certain theme, and right now it's just kind of bouncing around. And I enjoy that because sometimes we can get kind of stuck in a rut with just a simple Bible series. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That lets us know week to week what we're doing. But it's also sort of maybe insightful or inspirational when we find something just randomly. As was the case yesterday when I was doing some reading for another devotion that I was doing. And so I found this in the last part of Matthew chapter 7. If you are familiar with the New Testament and the teachings of Jesus, Matthew 5, 6, and 7 are very familiar to you in that is the chapters that contain the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus teaches his disciples and the crowd some what I would call very practical lessons. Even though they're practical, they're not always easy to practice. Sometimes it's the easy ones that are harder to follow through with. Jesus takes in that sermon some Old Testament teachings that the people would have been raised with, and he gives them a New Testament understanding with it. For example, you have heard it said, do not murder, but I tell you what, if anyone hates his brother or is angry with his brother, it's like committing murder. Wow, that changes the whole look of things. It's in the Sermon on the Mount that he gives us the Beatitudes. It's in the Sermon on the Mount that he teaches us how to pray. It's where we find the Lord's Prayer. He's not actually praying. He's just giving a model of how to pray. He teaches us to do our righteous acts, but not to do them to be seen by men, to gain recognition, but to just do them and go about our business just every day. And our Father in heaven will reward us. And there's just a number of different things that is made up in chapters 5, 6, and 7. I tell you that because when we get to the last part of chapter 7, Jesus gives a conclusion. Now, if you grew up in church, this conclusion became a little song about the wise man built his house upon the rock and the foolish man built his house upon the sand. And if you grew up in junior church, we had a fun little song that we sang. I'm not going to do that for you this morning. No entertainment in that area. But if you remember, Jesus basically takes everything that he says in those 3 chapters, and what he does is he concludes it basically this way. Those who hear these words of mine and put them into practice are like a wise man who built his house on the rock, and the rains came and the winds blew and the waters crashed against the house, but it did not fall. It was on solid rock. And then he said this: everyone who hears these words of mine. Now, in other words, he's not saying those who don't hear. He's saying those who do hear, but they do not put them into practice, is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. Just reading this just now, I got a new little thought that I'll share another time with you or even another group. But for right now, I'll stay on the track that I wanted to go with. I was reading this yesterday, and I decided to just glance at a commentary to just see what somebody else might have to say about what Jesus said. And I came across something interesting. The writer of this commentary said this about this particular verse. They wrote, "Most people do not deliberately seek to build their life on a false or inferior foundation. Instead, they just don't think about their life's purpose. A lot of people are headed for destruction, not out of stubbornness, but out of thoughtlessness." Now, that might be a lot to try to take in early on a Monday morning, but it's that last sentence that I will reread again for you. A lot of people are headed for destruction, not out of stubbornness, but out of thoughtlessness. Here's where I'm at with this. If this commentary writer is right in what they are saying, then basically what that means is that we who know the right thing to do and or the right path to take and the right direction to go, we have a responsibility. That responsibility is to stop and help people to think about where their lives are headed. Now, it is true. Every one of us know this, that there are those who are stubborn and bullheaded. I'm not going to listen to anything that God says. I'm not going to listen to anything that Jesus says. I am going to do my own thing. But if people are headed in the wrong direction simply because of a naive mind, maybe part of our duty is to help navigate them. We're not to play God, by no means. We should be helping one another. I think that helps in Scripture. Spur one another on towards love and good deeds. But none of us should want to see another person's life crumble and head for destruction because they just didn't fully understand. James, who was Jesus' half-brother, wrote a letter, and there's a lot of things that James says that you can connect to the Sermon on the Mount. And maybe this is one of them, and he put it toward the end of his letter. My brothers and sisters, if one of you should wander from the truth and someone should bring that person back, remember this: whoever turns a sinner from the error of their way will save them from death and cover over a multitude of sins. So here's the challenge for this week. Not only for us to live for Christ, but one of the ways to live for him is to point people to the one who gives us life. That is Jesus. He is the true path. Something for us to think about as we begin this week. Thank you again for watching each week. Like and share, and talk about these around your office. Talk around about your table, and may we spur one another on toward love and good deeds. We'll see you next Monday on Plugged In.